If you're thinking about leaving the US and moving to another country, this video is for you. So welcome to my channel. My name is Jamilia Grier. I am a serial expat entrepreneur, and I have been living outside of the US for over 15 years. And this video I decided to make particularly for anyone that's considering now of moving abroad, maybe starting a business abroad, I don't know, whatever kind of dream you may have about having sort of an international life. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about how I decided and why I decided to move outside of the US. So stick around. I guess the first thing I'll say for this video is that, the title is Why I Left the US for Dubai. And the first thing I would say is that I have been living outside the US for over 15 years, as I mentioned, and I lived in other countries as well. I lived in China and I've lived in Singapore. I spent a brief period of time in Serbia, and I now finally live in Dubai. And so this is coming from someone who has lived in several different countries. I kind of have some insights as to pros and cons, what I personally like, what I personally don't like, and that is really what led me to this decision. But everyone will have different views. You'll have a different idea about why you like a particular country or what you're looking for in your experience abroad. And so even though this is my point of view, you may have your own thoughts, your own opinions on what makes sense for you. Second point I would make is that this is why I left the US for Dubai. This is not Dubai is the best country in the world. This is not Dubai is heaven. You know, every country has pros and cons. As I mentioned, we do live in reality, so you're not going to find on this planet any perfect place to live. Okay. And then thirdly, I would say, if you're listening to this, take it and put it into action. I quite find that people who are, looking to move abroad or want to do something like that, the only reason why they haven't is because they feel as though they can't make it financially, or their peer group, their friends, their family are telling them that's crazy. That also happened to me. There can be so many reasons about why somebody wouldn't do it. And so this video is all about, how I came to my decision. Okay, let's get into it. So first things first is that my first international experience was almost 25 years ago. Can you imagine? So my first trip was to China, and I went for a summer program when I was in college, and it was all about teaching English. It was a cultural exchange program, and I really loved it. I fell in love with China, with the country, and I realized during that trip is that there is a whole nother world out there. You may be born in one country, but outside of those borders, there are humans living and operating under different sets of beliefs, different value sets, different cuisines, it's just a whole new world. And for me, it was super stimulating, it was exciting, and it was new. And I vowed to myself after that trip that I would go back to China, number one, and then also that I would incorporate China somehow in my career, which I did end up doing. I ended up having I'm a lawyer turned entrepreneur. I ended up having a really successful international legal career after that, and spent several years in Asia doing legal work for large multinational companies, and I learned Chinese, etc. And so there was one point of time in that period where my contract ended as an expat, and I'll make another video about international assignments as an expat, but my contract ended, and the company I was working for said, do you want to come back to the US? And I said sure. And I have children. We all went back to the US. My husband, my children, our whole family went back, and we lasted for 10 months. It just wasn't for us, and I think part of that is because I had gotten so used to living in an environment where you're constantly learning, where everything is new and exciting, and then going back to the US for me was simply it was very familiar. And I also felt that, you know, people in the US couldn't relate to my international experiences. And so there was this gap in terms of understanding and, you know, making connections, making real connections. Whereas previously I was in a circle of people who had lived international lives. And so I think that that's something that you should think about as well, is that once you do make this leap, if you decide to do so, you may be kind of in a situation where it's more comfortable to stay in international environments. So something to think about. So I guess you could say that the first reason that I decided to do this is because I wanted that stimulation. I wanted the experience of, you know, new foods, meeting new people, new languages, seeing new types of sites. All of that was very interesting to me, and it really was a learning experience in and of itself. And so that's one reason why I decided to move abroad. Now, the second reason probably is the one that most people are thinking about today, which is about safety. Now, when I look at US and I look at Dubai, I think the first thing that comes to mind is gun control. And for me, I'm not a huge fan of guns. I never have been, I never will be. I understand why people feel like they need to have guns, but it's just not for me. And to the extent that it's not something I want to be around, that just sort of really, you know, solidified my thought that I don't want to be in the US, because probably in, you know, somewhere along that line, those 15 years that I was abroad, more and more Americans started to purchase guns and get guns licenses, etc. And so when I came back to the US for those 10 months, I remember one time I walked into a Dunkin' Donuts and the guy in front of me had a gun in the back of his jeans, like in his waist. And I was like, you know, I don't really want to see this. I'm, you know, waking up in the morning, buying a coffee. Do I really want to be around this? And that type of feeling of not being safe was definitely a deterrent. Police brutality, also a deterrent. I could make so many videos about, you know, these issues. And these are, you know, social issues. They're also issues with respect to just what it means to live in the US. You do have to worry about crime much more than in Dubai. If we're comparing the two, you do have to worry about guns and you do have to worry about police brutality. Once again, I'm not saying that UAE is perfect, but I'm saying for me, if I had to, you know, choose between the two when it comes to safety, I certainly would choose UAE over the US. So that's the second reason. And then the third, I mean, of course, safety for my kids. If we're kind of following along that discussion about safety, what's safe for me, what's safe for my kids. I have 4 children. One is, you know, already in college back in the US. He decided to go back. But the younger ones, you know, they're here with me and my husband, and I feel very safe with walking outside with them, even at night. It doesn't matter what situation we're in. I don't necessarily have that same fear that something would happen to them. So safety is a huge reason of why I decided to, you know, stay in Dubai or live in Dubai. And I guess the last reason that I would say, and it's kind of related to the first, is that I really enjoy learning about other cultures. And this culture here in the Middle East, for sure, it is totally different than the culture that I was raised around. You know, I'm Black American. I went to AME Zion Church, which is African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church. And, you know, we just have a totally different culturally, and I guess, you know, in any other facet, a totally different lifestyle. And here I get to be around, you know, a different value set. I get to learn a bit more. And so it's just all going back to what it is that you're looking for. I mean, on now that's all on the personal side. On the professional side, there are so many other reasons of why I came to Dubai. I started my business here. It's a hub for technology and innovation, and there's just so much opportunity to grow as an entrepreneur here. So I hope that's helpful for anyone who is thinking about, moving abroad, whether you're looking to start a business abroad or whether you're looking to just basically do anything abroad with family or with kids. It can be done, but I wanted to kind of share some of the reasons about why I decided to do it, because in this journey, you may be questioning your why. You may be asking yourself, well, am I crazy? Nobody that I know has done this. That was me as well. The first time I went to China, I remember a lot of people in my family, my extended family, were saying, crazy things like, you're gonna starve if you go. They only have rice, right? Like they just didn't know, and it's coming from a place of them wanting to protect you. But you also need to understand that when people haven't done the thing that you want to do, it doesn't make them experts in it. If anything, it makes them non-experts, right? So you have to listen to your gut, you have to listen to your instinct, and make sure that your reasons for moving abroad are valid. So hopefully this video was helpful for you. Make sure you follow if you enjoyed this discussion, this kind of rant on why I moved abroad. And then also, I do have a book called Building a Business Abroad, which is available on Amazon right now. I'll link it in the description below. I talk all about the mindset to build a business abroad, what you need in terms of your tech stack on the practical side, and then how to sustain your life when you move abroad. So that's another resource for you, and more resources are coming. So hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next week. Take care.